Hello. There we go. What's going on, everybody? We're gonna give ourselves a few minutes here to get some more people on, and then we'll kind of play it from there. And before anybody starts up, the beverage of choice is the root beer. So yeah, and it is quite tasty, I might add. I'm not sure why I'm not hearing anything. There we go. Make sure I'm not getting that crazy echo like I had last week. That was annoying.
Into the light now.
we go. Can you guys hear me now? Should be able to hear me now. Echo. All right, hold on. All right, do we still have an echo? How's the echo now? Oh man. Okay, so a lot to go over, a lot to talk about tonight. Um, there is a ton of stuff in this upcoming week. Now, granted, I am not a fan of any of these other teams, but I think all of these teams bear talking about. Yes, Don, I got a new TV, sir. It was not as big as I would like, but it is what it is. So I'll let you guys pick which one would you guys want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about Auburn LSU? Do you want to talk about Michigan Notre Dame? Or do you guys want to talk about Ohio State Wisconsin first? I'll let you guys pick. Actually, let's do some background music while we're just chilling. I think a little bit of background music would probably be nice. If it doesn't echo too bad, that is. Okay, let's see. Ready to destroy Florida. Oh yeah. So TSM Wallace says Barn LSU first, and Reasonable Gump says Notre Dame Michigan. Um, let's go Barn LSU because that was the first one thrown up here. There we go. Um, I'm not sure how the sound on the other one's working, so I'm just gonna drop it out. All right. So looking at these two teams, I've been kind of looking over these, um, trying to kind of figure out which way I wanted to go on this, which one I thought was going to be the uh, the best choice. And after looking at everything, I gotta say I think LSU is going to be a just a wrecking ball to Auburn. Auburn's currently 6-1. If Auburn wants any shot at getting in the SEC championship, they've got to win out. And coming up, I mean, they had a loss against Florida. They went come back and they blow out Arkansas, and then now they got LSU. Man, this root beer is tearing me up. What's going on, Nick? The Fighting Jim Harmars versus the Crying Irish. We'll talk a little bit about the Georgia Florida game. I'll get into that, but I wanted to go over these other teams first. I mean, looking at Auburn. Auburn only twice this year has really shown any kind of, or excuse me, three times this year has shown a high-powered offense. Um, they scored 51 points against Arkansas. They scored 56 against Mississippi State, and they scored 55 against Kent. These are all terrible teams. Every one of these teams is terrible. Every team that they've played that has been any good, they've struggled. They've only scored 21 points at the most. So, I mean, they only scored 24 points against Tulane. They scored 21. Excuse me. They scored 27 points against Oregon. So they did have a decent game there, season opener. Um, then when they played TAMU, they scored 28. They lost to Florida 13-24. And if you look at Bo Nix, his numbers are not great. I mean, he has 1,300 yards, which isn't terrible, but his completion percentage is 56%. I just don't see him standing up to that LSU defense. I just don't. I don't think I think if LSU's defense was complete garbage, I think maybe Auburn might be able to keep up if they had a really good game. But LSU's defense is not garbage. It's a decent defense. So I think the Auburn's going to have some problems there, trying to keep up. I think that you're going to see a pretty significant a pretty significant just drubbing down here to the bottom. How's that? LSU's defense is not really that bad. I mean, you may think LSU's defense is that bad, but let's talk about their defense. They held Florida to 28, and Florida's been putting up some pretty decent numbers. They held Mississippi State to 13. If you go over here and you look at Auburn, Auburn let Mississippi State get 23. Um, Now they did let Vandy score 38 on them. They held Texas to 38, but Texas at 38 was it's kind of to be expected. So, their defense is not as bad as it looks on paper. If you watch them play, it's kind of different. Now you look at Joe Burrows though. My goodness, this guy is easily a Heisman Trophy candidate. I mean, Joe Burrows, he's at almost 2,500 yards already. He has 29 touchdowns, and that's with him getting sacked 12 times this year. He's got 29 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, been sacked 12 times. His completion percentage is Zamir White says he likes my channel. Well, I tell you what, Zamir, hit me up on the Google. I would love to shake your hand, sir. You are an impressive player. Thank you for coming to UGA. Can't believe you're in my stream, sir. Glad to have you here. Can we throw an honorable mention to Miami losing to Georgia Tech? Oh, absolutely. How did you lose to Georgia Tech, man? What are you doing? I might as well take this. This is my sleeve. I might as well take it out of here because as people join in, more and more people is going to think I'm actually drinking beer, and I am. I'm drinking root beer. So, as my kids and wife say, I'm drinking the bougie root beer. Can Auburn defense get pressure on Joe Burrow? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can, but that's the point I'm making is it doesn't matter. The guy's throwing at 80%, getting sacked 2 to 3 times a game, and he just gets up and keeps going. His long pass is 65 yards. He averages 11, almost 11 and a half yards every time he passes the ball. I mean, he's lost 81 yards in sacks, and the guy's still blowing folks out, man. Do you think Cager will come back? I think Cager will be back. Sorry, guys, having a little issue here trying to get this thing. There we go. Cager will definitely be back. Cager is a phenomenal player. I don't think there's anything to worry about. He's gonna get tuned up, and he's gonna come back, and he's gonna be in the fight. Will it be against Florida? Man, I hope so, because we need that guy. Barner loses before they even step on the field. Little brother is. Oh man, oh man. Georgia Tech has a better offense play calling than Georgia. Unfortunately, that may be the case, and I'll get into the Dogs here in a little bit. I promise. So let me see if I can move this chat up just a little bit. I want to get down. There we go. That's what I wanted to put on there, so everybody can see it. Ryan Thomas says, "Go Tigers!" All right, we've got quite a few people in here now. Let me see what we've got as far as people. Of course, we have the Mr. Zamir White has joined the channel. We appreciate him. Reasonable Gump in here pretty often. Nicholas Thompson, another guy is in here often. Jared Jones is here. Casey Thompson, Dunn Hogue, I guess is that. Let's see. DJ Doomray, CJ Davis, Michael Corson. Tiger Raven is always here. We appreciate you being in here, sir. Dog Man Forever. Yeah. This cat. Y'all won't believe this, but this cat fetches. See this little ball? He loves this thing. He loves this thing. He'll go get that thing and bring it back like 100 times, man. He does not care. It's insane. Anyway, hire Mark Rick as offensive coordinator. um, I don't know what we need to do in the offensive coordinator position, but I think we'll be all right. He brought me a different one. Get out of here, cat. All right. So if you're kind of just comparing the numbers between LSU and if you're comparing the numbers between LSU and Auburn, I mean it's a pretty stark contrast between the two. You've got at Auburn their number one receiving guys at 458 yards, and then you got at LSU at 759. Um, they've got one interception versus LSU's three interceptions. Rushing yards is about equal, and I mean uh, Whitlow is at 544, and I guess his name was Hilaire is at 547. I mean, so that's pretty much dead even. But as far as the point score goes, I mean, the points per game for LSU is just ridiculous. I mean, they have only had one game all season where they've scored less than 40 points, and that was against Mississippi State. I don't know what happened there. They could have kept their foot on the throttle, but they didn't. If you look at Auburn, I think they only had twice, three times they scored in the 50s. Every other time that was under 30. So I think just on the scoring front, crazy cat. Is OSU legit? Are you talking about Ohio State or Oklahoma State? Because if you're talking about Ohio State, yeah, probably. We'll get to them in a second. Reasonable Gump's always in here, man. He's always fighting, helping me fight the trolls. So let's jump over. He wanted to talk about Notre Dame, Michigan. So Notre Dame they've had moments where they were really, really good, and they've had moments where they were kind of just meh. So to me, it's kind of which team are we going to see this week? And Michigan's kind of the same way. It's what team are we going to see this week? I mean, they played Army really close. I mean, they only beat Army by a field goal. Now, some people will say that's a knock, but it's not. Army's a really good ball club, and it's hard to beat those guys. Now, they did lose to Wisconsin, but Wisconsin is a really good team. They absolutely blew out and shut out Rutgers. Shutouts aren't easy. Then they had this weird game at Iowa where it was 10-3. I mean, but it was at Iowa, so I don't know. Um, and then Illinois, they beat them 42-25, but then Illinois turned around and beat Wisconsin. So I mean, it's all over the place. They lost to Penn State, which was a number 7 ranked team, but they beat them, or excuse me, they lost to them by a touchdown. So I mean, the question is which team's going to show up? I mean, I can see it going either way. I can see Notre Dame winning this game. I can see Michigan winning this game. I just don't really know which team to pick. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Shea Patterson has 4 interceptions and a completion percentage of about 58%. If you look at Notre Dame, Ian Book, 14 touchdowns, but he's been sacked 9 times, but around a 63% completion rate. So it's really hard to tell as to which one of these guys. I mean, which one are you going to get? Which one are you going to get? The Illinois game was close. It was, but I mean, it is what it is. Looks like Kendall Milton would be going to be a 4-star when it's all said and done. We'll see what happens. With Beck coming in next year and Kiffin possibly getting fired, he could what? Could what? Could turn around our offense. Maybe I should move this over so we can see it better. Still got some adjusting to do on this thing, man. Still learning how to make this thing work. What's up, buddy? I see you didn't take any time to get into those apples, did it? So anyway, he says he's got the Irish to win. Sorry, but Harbaugh's team just doesn't have any offense. After watching the way that they played watching the way that Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines played against Florida in that big game here in Atlanta, it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, wow, I really thought that um, I really thought they were going to do better than they did. They did horrible. Florida trounced them. Dewan, you know, Dewan Mathis is one of those guys where it is really hard to get information on and to actually find out what's going on with that guy. Love you too, buddy. I mean, they say you know, they say he's going to play, but who knows? We don't know when he's going to be back. I think the last real like legitimate update we had was at the end of August. Looks like he was throwing passes back in August, but we haven't seen him suit up. I haven't seen him anything, do anything. So I don't know where he's at. I mean, I'd love to see him come in because the guy's like 6'5". He's a beast. What do you do with that guy? Answer is you hand him the ball, let him do whatever he wants. Gurley and Chubb were 4 stars. They turned out pretty well. Yeah, that's true. And Brian Kelly is just a much better college coach than Harbaugh. I think if Notre Dame shows up and they're able to play the kind of defense that they played against Georgia, I think they could really do well against the Wolverines. But I also think that if the Wolverines get into a rhythm, it's going to be really really hard um, for them to slow them down. I mean, no team this year has, with the exception of Wisconsin, scored more than 28 points on them, and Wisconsin only scored 35. So the highest scoring team this year that's played them has scored 35 points. Um, Notre Dame, um, Georgia scored 23, USC scored 27, and everybody else is less. I mean, these teams are very, very closely matched. Um, I'm, I can't stand Notre Dame. I cannot stand them. But I will tell you that Jim Harbaugh has this wonderful habit of losing in big games. So it's really hard to say. Michigan missed out on the one. He should have chosen the in-state school, but told you, yeah, y'all got a good quarterback when he comes back. Well, we'll see. We gotta give him opportunity to get healed up and get back in a rhythm and learn the play plan. Next year we got Carson Beck coming in. Dewan Mathis is actually probably going to have to compete against that guy if Jake Fromm leaves next year. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm picking LSU to win. I pick LSU to win by 2 touchdowns. When it comes to Notre Dame, you know, golly, man. Um, I just think Notre Dame's defense is just a little bit better, and I don't like Notre Dame, but I'm going to pick Notre Dame by 3. I can just see it going out that way. It's going to come down to a one possession of a turnover late in the game. It's going to come down to something like that. It's not going to be a walk away from either. Neither one of these teams is going to walk away with the ball. I mean, walk away with a score. It's not going to happen. If Michigan loses Saturday, the Wolverines will go 8-4 or 7 and will the Wolverines will go 8-4, 7-5. I think the Wolverines certainly have an opportunity. I know it may not look it, but they got to play the Sparties. But they play the Sparties at home, and that team's actually pretty tough. So I could see them. I could see them losing or winning that game. I believe they would definitely lose to OSU the way they're playing right now. Um, so I mean, if they lose, they can certainly go 8-4. I can see 8-4. I don't know how Georgia has had 2 really bad games, but did pretty well with the previous games. Well, what 2 really bad games are you talking about, Jared? Harbaugh will announce another team trip. And we will see the Wildebeest next week. Well, at least he's not having sleepovers right now. Yeah, I mean it could be a lot worse. Still trying to get all the lighting situations and everything figured out, man. This is kind of new. just lighten it on up some more. South Carolina and Kentucky. So let's we'll talk about, okay. So if you guys want to talk about the South Carolina Kentucky game, we'll talk about that. So when that game was first over, I was pretty upset. I get heated, especially when it comes to the Dogs. And so, didn't Kirby already make it clear in a press conference that he likes the offense the way it is? He said that, but coaches say all kind of stuff. I mean, they really do. I mean, coaches will say one thing and do another. They do it all the time. It's part of football. If you look at Kirby's demeanor when he's on the play field with those guys in practice and when he's running up and down the sidelines versus how he acts in front of a press conference, you can absolutely tell it's almost like a different person. So, yeah, tell little dog Brett to get out of those apples. Well, he's a big fan of the Honeycrisp apples, and my wife just bought some. They were on sale at the grocery store, and he loves apples. I mean, so if your kid wants to eat apples instead of Doritos and Hershey bars, and we'll buy him apples. Hot Dorito bag. What's up? Here, give him a bite of that apple. Look at this kid. Look how much it is. Look how big this apple is, man. I think it's bigger than my fist, dude. It's huge. So anyway, I'm gonna take a bite of that thing. Oh, these are good. Hey, you're not throwing that away, are you? Okay. All right. Mmm. Sorry, guys. Those apples are delicious. Mmm. Big dog Kirby. Have a horrible attitude. All right, so let's talk about favorite apple, Honeycrisp by far. Those things are delicious. If I can't get those, I'll take the Fuji apples or Fiji apples or whatever they are. Those things are amazing. So the South Carolina game, there was so many things that went wrong in that game. Had four turnovers in one direction. That hurts. You have a world class kicker missed two field goals. That hurts. Um, just a lot of three sacks in that game. That never happens against UGA. I mean, Granny Smith's apples are good. I ain't gonna lie. But so many things culminated in the wrong direction in that game. Yes, that was a bad game. Now let's talk about the Georgia Kentucky game. Was it a pretty game? No, that was not a pretty game. But let me ask you this: what was the score of the UGA Notre Dame game? 17-23. 17-23. We scored only two more points in that game, but because Notre Dame was ranked higher, 23-17. I know what you meant, Tiger. What's going on, Jesse? Because that was a 23-17 game versus a ranked team, nobody really complained. So whenever we were playing against Kentucky, the weather was bad. Now, hold on. I get people's going to say, well, there were other teams that played in the rain. Yeah, there were people down on the field and announcers that said there's no way that they would have passed the ball in that. Jake Fromm was telling Kirby Smart felt like the ball was slick, didn't want to try and throw it. And for those of you, if you don't know much about college football, what they do is a quarterback will actually sit down and he'll go through numerous footballs and he'll pick out the ones that he likes. The how far the ball is weathered, how much air is in it, the kind of grip it has, how tall are the laces, forward to back, and they pick out the one they want. If the ball that he's comfortable with doesn't work well in the rain, he's probably not going to throw it much. And here's the thing. Georgia, their whole game plan in that game was to just play good, clean football, to not turn it over, to not fumble it, and play smart and wear on Kentucky. And that's exactly what they did. They walked out there with a game plan and executed it. So they could have had a game plan. They could have had a game plan that involved throwing the ball a lot. But at the end of the day, did they need to? And the answer is no. They had a defense that they knew could stand up Kentucky. So they didn't have to wait. They didn't have to push for points. They knew they were going to get their points, and they just took their time to get them. At the end of the day, if you know that your team is good enough to shut somebody out, you don't have to be in a big hurry. And that was one of the things he was talking about was patience, patience, patience. And I know as fans, we know Jake Fromm's got him armed. We've seen it in the Rose Bowl. We've seen it in some of the other bigger games. But here recently, we're like, oh man, we're getting too conservative. Well, I think that one of the things that's going into it is the play calling is really designed to win the game, not necessarily be flashy. Because the entire schedule, if you look at it, allows Georgia to play its schedule the way it played that game. From here on out, if Georgia just plays good, clean football and wins football games, and it doesn't have to win them by a ton of points, it just has to win them. So if Georgia wins the rest of the games out, ends up in the SEC championship, wins that game, we're in the playoffs. It's simple as that. So why do you have to go out there and throw 100 points on the board? You don't. You got to win those games. So I think in that game, rather than take a bunch of chances at throwing the ball downfield, passes getting tipped, whatever, it's one of those things where playing smart football is not necessarily what a fan wants to see, but playing smart football wins the football game, then that's what you do. If Georgia would have went out there and made a bunch of mistakes, you would have heard more about how overrated Georgia was. You would have heard tons and tons of people talking about how Georgia's not able to do what it does. Georgia's shut 2 opponents out this year. I don't know any other top 5 or Power 5 school that's done that. And Georgia did them against a Power 5 school on one and a top 10 ranked school in another. So, yeah, we had a bad game at South Carolina. It is what it is. It happens to everybody from time to time. I think somebody threw up a stat the other day that Cager going down did hurt us. There's no doubt about that. Somebody threw up a stat the other day that no team in the SEC since like 2003 or something has won the SEC. Never mind a national title, has even won the SEC without at least one loss. So, it just is what it is. Wisconsin shut out 3. Did they? I thought they just shut out 2. Oh, no, actually they've shut out 4. They shut out USF, CMU, Kent, and MSU. But the only one out of those 5 that's a Power 5 school is MSU. The other ones weren't ranked. So I really think that Wisconsin had, and now we're talking about Wisconsin, I just think Wisconsin had a bad game against Illinois, and they still almost won that game. That was the first time anybody in that entire season had scored more than 15 points against them. Yeah, they shut out 4. A team was able to score 24 points on a team that hadn't had anybody score over 15. That's incredible. Now, you look at Ohio State. Ohio State shut out Cincinnati. But they haven't shut out a Power 5 school. They did score 76 points on somebody, though. Oh, man. So when they play Wisconsin here, I think Ohio State will win this game if Wisconsin doesn't play the absolute best defense it's ever played. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, they've got Justin Fields. I get the whole Justin Fields thing. Tons of people are going to talk about how Justin Fields 09 ran the table. Well, 09 then. Instead of 03, it might have been 09, but still, it's a decade ago. That's a lot. Justin Fields throwing for 22 touchdowns, according to the stats I'm looking at. 70% completion percentage. Jack Cohen, he's at 9 touchdowns with a 76% completion percentage. Wisconsin Badgers, that's their games. I need their stats. You got Jonathan Taylor, who's rushed for almost 1,000 yards already. But then you got J.K. Dobbins, which has rushed for almost 1,000 yards already. You got Quintez Cephas, I guess that's his name, for Wisconsin. His receiving yards are 353. And then you've got Benjamin Victor, whose receiving yards are 355. I mean, these guys on paper are pretty much carbon copies. You got Jack Sanborn for Wisconsin is their leading tackler with 40 tackles. Ohio State has Jordan Fuller with 37. Wisconsin's interceptions is, yes, their leading interception guy is Eric Burnell with 2. Ohio State has Jeff Okuda with 3. I mean, these guys are so incredibly close. By the way, the passing yards for Jack Cohen is 1383, and for Justin Fields is 1492. So I mean, only 100 yards difference. I mean, that's like 10 yards, 10 or 12 yards a game. I mean, it's not huge. I'm falling behind on the chat here. I don't think we're gonna beat Florida at this rate. If we don't, it's all on Kirby. Okay, so let's talk about Florida real quick. So for those of you who want to know, I think Georgia's not going to have a problem beating Florida. I think Florida's going to struggle to score against Georgia, and Florida has already proved they can't stop the run game. So when you take a look at those two factors, it shouldn't be a big surprise that Georgia should be able to win that game. So let's actually pull up Florida's numbers here, just so we can talk about them a second. I was going to save all this stuff for a video, but might as well get into some of it now. And I'm not going to be on here much longer. I'm going to jump off here in just a little bit. Standings, schedule, teams. Here we go. Oh, I could do standings because they're actually ranked in the top 25 this year. Or rankings, whatever. The past few years, it's been hard to pull up Florida. You actually had to go digging for them. So here is the Florida Gators. Now, Florida has had a pretty decent offense, but they have definitely struggled to stop the run, and their offense seems to be going the wrong direction. Okay, so they let LSU score 42 points on them. South Carolina scored 27. Before that, Kentucky scored 21. Keep in mind, we shut Kentucky out. Kentucky scored 21 on them, and Miami scored 20. Now, they did shut out a UTM school, and Tennessee only scored 3, and I think they beat Townsend 38-0 or whatever. But this is by far going to be the toughest game that they've played. And I can absolutely guarantee you that it's going to be really, really tough for Florida to score. They haven't played anybody that has a defense like us yet. I mean, the only reason that South Carolina was able to score 20 points and it took them 2 overtimes to do it was because we gave them 4 turnovers. I mean, we had to give them 4 turnovers for them to score 20 points. What does that tell you? As long as Georgia don't turn over the ball, Florida ain't got a shot. So people can keep talking about how Georgia's not elite. The numbers speak for themselves. Georgia has an incredible defense. I mean, if the ESPN matchup predictor has UGA picked at a 62% to win this game, and I can guarantee you that it should be probably closer to 70%. But I'm gonna go over Georgia scores. Vanderbilt scored 6 points. Murray scored 17. Arkansas State scored 0. Notre Dame, a top 10 ranked team, scored 17. Tennessee scored 14. South Carolina scored 20, but they really only scored 17 in regulation. And Kentucky scored 0. Georgia's got a top 6 defense in the country among all schools. They do. So it's a Georgia curse. All teams find a way to choke, except for that soccer team. 11 national championships with no good years. Sound about right? Michigan, there's a lot of teams out there have a lot of tradition. Michigan's one of them, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is this season. What matters is now, and the recruiting. And if you look at these games, I mean, Swift ran for 147 yards against Vanderbilt. Ran for 76 against Arkansas State, 98 against Notre Dame, 113 against South Carolina, and 179 against Kentucky. That's just one of our running backs. I mean, Florida can't stop the run. So I don't see Kirby Smart needing to air it out. Um, Florida has had enough time and enough opportunity to get their defensive backs coached up. Georgia's just going to run all over them. And so don't be surprised if in the first half that the offense looks sluggish. They're just going to keep leaning on Florida. Florida is not deep. They're not. So by the time Georgia keeps leaning on them, it's highly likely that Georgia's going to start walking away third quarter and fourth quarter of that game. Michigan can win the OSU game any year, man. They have the top 10 recruiting class every year, but you're right, it's all in coaching. Whew, well, it's almost 10 o'clock, guys. I'm getting tired. Had a long day. Got a lot more to do tomorrow. So if you guys would just share the video. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, thumbs up. We really appreciate it. We're trying to do these videos more and more often during the week, so give you guys some more content to talk about. But I got to pick a winner between Ohio State and Wisconsin. Golly, this is such a tough one, man. Wisconsin's got such a good defense, but Ohio State's got just such an amazing offense and a good defense. I'm gonna go with Ohio State by a touchdown, by seven points. Border Bob says SEC in chaos. I love it. It's that way most years, believe it or not. Georgia D gives up big plays, though. I'm a Georgia fan, but I have seen our defense give up a lot of big plays. It's okay to give up a big play as long as you stop them in the end. But, well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump off. For those of you who are on, Uncle Lou's getting fired up now, so you guys go over there and check him out. Have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs.